What's going on, guys? TG or Thundergod here with another pretty interesting video. Today we'll be looking at what if Pokeballs from the series of Pokemon were in the series of Naruto. Now, I know that sounds insanely goofy, but specifically we'll be looking at if they'd be able to actually capture the multi-continental nuking-tailed beast. And if so, I'm actually going to take it a step further and go into which shinobi would actually be able to perform this feat, as this discussion is a lot deeper than it seems. So with that being said, make sure to like and subscribe if you're new here and enjoy this type of content, me, anything, and let's get into the video. In a Pokemon battle, once an opposing wild Pokemon has been weakened, the Pokemon trainer can throw a Pokeball at it. When a Pokeball hits the Pokemon, as long as it's not deflected, the Pokeball will open, cause the Pokemon to shrink, store it inside, and close. A Pokemon in this state is given a chance to struggle to attempt to break free from the Pokeball and escape, instantly growing back to its original size. Should a Pokemon escape a Pokeball, the device will either be destroyed in the games in some manga or will return to the trainer, which is more so the anime. And the reason being weakened is important is, according to Lucian of the Sinnoh Elite Four, weakened Pokemon instinctively curl up tight in an attempt to heal themselves, an action that the environment of the Pokeball encourages, which is a huge component of this video. Now, would this work on beings such as the tailed beast with their enormous power? So we already know going in that, like, catching these Pokemon with their enormous levels of power is very difficult, even like with all the conditions set. But is it even feasible? Well, there exist legendary Pokemon with a plethora of ridiculous feats and abilities. To name a few, we have Arceus, who was born from nothing, not even chaos, and created the following Pokemon: Dialga, the progenitor of time; Palkia, the progenitor of space; and Giratina, the progenitor of antimatter, thus framing the universe. With the subsequent legendaries like Kyogre, Groudon, and Rayquaza, who are more indicative of the tailed beast in size and strength, as they themselves affect the landmass and the oceans of the world, this being a drop of the expansive power and abilities in Pokemon lore. Seriously, I'm spark noting this. So Pokeballs do work on these beings superior to that of the tailed beast that scale to the universe itself, rather than simply being masses of chakra that can blow things up. And I want to make it very clear, right, that these levels of power are very consistent for higher end Pokemon. A more blatant example is how Palkia and Dialga in multiple continuities fought in a distorted and collapsed space-time, with their strongest attacks threatening to destroy the dimension the heroes currently inhabited. With Pokedex entries like Dialga's, a legendary Pokemon of Sinnoh, it is said that time flows when Dialga's heart beats, which a lot of people will brush off as hyperbole, but it really isn't the case, as even in games like Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Explorers of Time, and Explorers of Darkness, where Dialga is corrupted, he only seeks self-preservation and does whatever is necessary to thwart any attempt to alter the past and subsequently erase it from existence, with the corruption actually being noted to hurt Dialga's heart, which again does alter everything, ironically. So this is very consistent. Now, for anybody who might like say this is hyperbole or the Pokedex entries can't be taken at face value for whatever reason, there is actually a very good reason for this. A lot of the time, legendary Pokemon are testing the main character to see if they're worthy of using their strength. This being seen prominently with legendary juggernauts like Rayquaza and Alpha Ruby and Sapphire, or Giratina and Pokemon Platinum, both testing the player's strength, and you have the option to either defeat or catch the Pokemon to incite its aid. This is actually very similar to how in Naruto there are contracts that must be signed on both ends by summons in order for them to actually be summoned. That or just, you know, the beast in question has to be like forced to comply via manipulation. Kogita and Legends Arceus puts a good perspective on catching legendary Pokemon. The time they spend with us is only a fragment of their near eternal lifespans, and when we pass, they return to the wild, which again is very similar to the tailed beast, as they're very old and they do emerge again when the Jinchuriki dies. So these beings actually are this strong. It's just like being caught is a drop in the bucket to the eternal lifespan. And actually, on top of this, legendary Pokemon are canonically far weaker when caught, as the Pokeball canonically limits the power of godly Pokemon. Cyrus's PC has a report on it in the Galactic Headquarters discussing this. Cyrus specifies that capturing Dialga/Palkia on a Pokeball limits their powers, thus their ability to recreate the world, which is why he ends up using the red chain, unleashing their full might. So a lot of the time, these beings of unbelievable strength can be caught, but they are also weakened on top of this. So via like Pokemon of this level of power getting caught, the tailed beasts themselves actually are catchable. You know, the legendaries in lore and games, you know, they're going to be far beyond what the tailed beasts are. And that might sound weird, but you know, you don't really see the tailed beasts when clashing, distorting reality, threatening the universe, anything to this degree. They're more so just raw chunks of chakra that can blow things up, which again is the point, because they need a Jinchuriki to harness that power and focus it. So now that we know the tailed beasts are in a range where we believe they're actually catchable, Like legendaries in the Pokemon lore and games, not everybody is actually going to be able to weaken the tail beast to the point of they'd be catchable. So let's look at who could potentially catch each tail beast. Now, starting off, I want a lot of people to understand that regular Jonin throwing a Pokeball at a tail beast wouldn't inherently catch it, especially since, the speed at which the Pokeball thrown has to be beyond that what the tail beast is able to smack away, since it's very common that Pokemon just smack away Pokeballs when they're about to get caught. This can be seen a few times with like Ash's first Pidgey to a Whiscash even eating a Master Ball as a defensive mechanism. On top of them actually needing to hit the tail beast, there is almost a 0% chance that the tail beast, on top of not being weakened, would remain in the Pokeballs. It'd be like trying to seal the tail beast in the Ghetto statue without them being weakened. It'd be impossible unless you were someone of like Rinnegan moderate strength. Now, for the 1 through 8 tails, the Akatsuki is a pretty obvious one. A solid example for the Akatsuki is one of the more middling to weaker end members, being Datara and his performance against the 3 tails, with him being able to completely incapacitate the beast with his clay explosives, which is impressive as the tail beasts do have very tough hides. This would obviously give Datara the clearing on the 1 through 3 tails, with him being able to completely knock them out to the point of capture or weaken them close to resurrection. This being a very casual feat for Datara as well. Also consistent with the Akatsuki, who are supposed to fight the Jinchuriki, who are stronger than their tail beasts and most of their respective villages. And this is individually, mind you, as a lot of the teams have individual objectives to take on. Other examples like Kakuzu and Hidan taking on Yugito when she allows the 2 tails to rampage and take over in her tail beast state, with other duos taking on Jinchuriki like the 4 tails and onward. The anime also does extend the depiction of them being captured, with Pain taking down Utakata the 6 tails and Kakuzu and Hidan taking down Fu the 7 tails. But aside from the Akatsuki, whose actual entire purpose is to capture these beasts, who else would be in this criteria? Well, for starters, Itachi and Sasuke with their Mangekyo Sharingan are among the few. Now, you can obviously say that any Uchiha with a Mangekyo Sharingan can control the tail beast with their visual prowess, but in my mind, this is not enough, as even Obito wasn't able to control the 9 tails for that long, with him being on the upper echelon of the Uchiha hierarchy. But what Sasuke and Itachi can do, however, is scorch the tail beast with Amaterasu, weakening them to the point of near death or resurrection. This was shown to be effective on the likes of the 8 tails hide, meaning it would be effective on the first 7 tail beasts as well. Even if we were to say the tail beasts were not fully taken down by the Amaterasu attempt, the flames plus genjutsu manipulation would be enough to give a good chance of capture. It'd be like hitting a Pokemon with hypnosis, putting it to sleep right after you burn it with a super effective flamethrower. Same principle here. This isn't limited to just Uchiha or Akatsuki members for that matter. We have characters like the 3rd and 4th Raikage, whose lightning cloaks supplemented with their impressive physiques are made to literally 1v1 the 8 tails. In the 3rd's case, stalemating the tail beast to the point of Yuki losing consciousness. This being another example of shinobi who have the ability to fatigue the tail beast to the point of near temporary death, making it so it's available for capture. So the Raikage are among those shinobi who have the capability to capture 1 through 8 tail beasts, at least like on their own in terms of like a 1v1 scenario. I'm not saying the Raikage can solo all 8 tail beasts on their own. That's not what I'm saying. But someone who actually does have more of a blatant showing of this, capable of ragdolling the tail beast, is Naruto with his Kyuubi cloak, or KCM2, where he enters the Kurama avatar and proceeds to just absolutely throttle 5 tail beasts at once, which has, I mean, it's what you would expect, honestly. He's able to counteract their combined tail beast bombs with his own, meaning Naruto would be able to heavily damage each of the tail beasts with his own tail beast bomb if he so chooses, seeing as it's superior to their tail beast's own attacks. So the case could be made for Naruto taking out 1 through 8 all on his own. But yeah, this is pretty evident at this point. Naruto would be able to catch 1 through 8 on his own. Possibly at once. He's able to damage them. He's able to take them on and like hold them down with his own avatar. It's pretty evident. Now, the 9 tails is its own category just due to the gargantuan strength difference between it and the other tail beasts. We can see that the 9 tails itself is even beyond the likes of Pain, considering one of the strongest, or if they're not the strongest, in the Akatsuki, along with Obito and Itachi, with the 3 commonly being shuffled around, depending on who you ask. So who might be able to take down the 9 tails and secure a capture? Well, we have someone like Kushina with her adamantine sealing chains can hold down the 9 tails, paralyzing it and restricting moves very akin to the status affliction where Pokemon is paralyzed via Thunder Wave or another move in the game, which may not actually be enough to catch it, but when combined with the efforts of someone like Minato, they can seal large portions of its chakra away, potentially making it possible. So there are ways to make it easier to catch the likes of the 9 tails. The problem is just due to how durable the hide is and how it's never shown taking any real substantial damage. With even inferior versions of its cloak being durable enough to resist attacks from the Sannin. The only time we see any external effect on the 9 tails hide is inside Naruto, which could be argued to not be indicative of how the 9 tails is actually, or that would strictly scale to half the Ninetales and not the complete version, which is what Kushina is actually holding down. For controlling the Ninetales strictly by themselves, it would definitely take a fighter on the level of Hashirama or Madara to definitively damage the Ninetales to the point of capture, and for that to even be a possibility, as they have the ability to add afflictions to the damage on top of the damage they inflict on the tail beast. This being evident as you have avatars or jutsu like the perfect Susanoo, which can rival the Wood Golem, which is stated to rival the complete Ninetales, with both blocking and catching tail beast bombs very casually. So essentially, Madara and Hashirama have their own Pokemon or avatars able to damage the Ninetales with afflictions to boost the catch rate. So it would take this tier of fighter to actually have a chance of catching the Ninetales in a Pokeball, at least individually. We see this with Madara's Genjutsu and Hashirama's Wood Style, which completely suppresses and puts the Ninetales to sleep. Again, very akin to Hypnosis. Same thing with Madara's visual prowess, and this is actually a step above the other Uchiha, as he does control the Ninetales for a bit longer of a duration, with him even like it's even shown in a flashback, like when he puts the Ninetales under his control. It's before the fight with Hashirama, or it's implied to be. So he does seem to be able to restrict it or like hold on to it longer than the likes of Obito, with him also being able to expend chakra in his fight against Hashirama while controlling it. You can get a sense for the tier of fighter required to tame a certain level of these beasts. For example, right, Rinnegan Madara with the Limo clone smacked all 9, with the 2 strongest being Jinchuriki, who should kind of be, who can put it in perspective for you guys, like what it takes. Another example being Rinnegan Sasuke and how he's so much stronger than these other Uchiha, that not only can he control all 9 tail beasts via his Rinnegan, but he can keep them under his control in the Chubaku Tensei while having a prolonged bout with Naruto, and have the ability to siphon off their chakra. So in Madara's case, he would just beat them up. In Sasuke's case, he would restrict them, sap all their chakra, weakening them, and then throw them in Pokeballs, which is kind of what he did already with the Chubaku Tensei, funny enough, but you know. Last up, we have the Ten-Tails. The Ten-Tails is a little interesting since it goes through stages of evolution throughout its showings in the war. We see that off its lore of being full power, it's stated to be stronger than the Ninetales. We see that in its second form, Hashirama is able to halt its movements with the Gracious Deity Gate. So that tier fighter does have some effect on the second form of the Ten-Tails and everything before. However, Hashirama or Madara themselves, even though they can afflict the beast, haven't shown the ability to weaken it to the point of capture, with the Ten-Tails removing scorched parts of itself when hit by attacks like the Amaterasu. So again, there's a pretty clear gap between the Ten-Tails and everything else below. For the Ten-Tails, it would definitely require 6 Pats characters and onward to tame. Characters like Rinnegan Sasuke, 6 Pats, Sage Mode Naruto, who actively rival or surpass Ten-Tails Jinchuriki, who can make, Naruto can make clones of his QB avatar, with Sasuke having the perfect Susanoo, which would be able to weaken the Ten-Tails. Very similar to Madara and Hashirama, they have these avatars that can output large-scale attacks and kind of fight for them. They don't even necessarily need to like directly, fight the Ten-Tails with the Chidori or Rasengan. So I could go on and on for this video, especially for each rank, but I think you guys generally get the idea, the type of fighters required to catch each level of tail beast. There are exceptions, of course, as Naruto as a series has so many unique abilities in Jutsu that there's always a case, and I'm sure I did miss somebody or didn't acknowledge somebody. Honorable mention I want to throw in is Code from Boruto, who has the unique ability to mix his chakra and blood to create and spread numerous black bands like the ones covering his face and arms. These bands will adhere to anything they come into contact with and act as a personal portal that he can pass through. Code also blatantly suppresses the Ten-Tails to a point he can force it to make mini versions of itself that adhere to his will. If he was able to force it to that degree, he also should be able to weaken it enough for it to be capturable via how casual of a feat this is for him. But yeah, that's the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts. If you guys thought I missed somebody or a certain scenario, let me know if you guys agree, disagree, why. Make sure to like and subscribe if you did and want to see more stuff like this. Until next time, bye-bye.